The iridescent sky of Elysium twisted and turned, casting kaleidoscopic rainbows across the sprawling city below. Metallic towers reached upwards, gleaming with holographic displays that pulsed with life. Beneath this technicolor dome, humanity had transcended its biological confines, touching the precipice of godhood. Dr. Adrian Silas, the foremost expert in neural augmentation, looked out from his skyscraper lab at the heart of the city. His brilliance was unparalleled, with an intelligence quotient that dwarfed the brightest minds of history. It wasn't hubris, simply a fact, acknowledged by all of Elysium. A soft ping echoed through his lab, a reminder of the experiment scheduled for today, the culmination of his life's work. He was on the verge of unlocking the next phase of human evolution. Dr. Silas, his assistant Alara murmured. Her voice harmonized with the synthesized undertones that were a byproduct of her own neural augmentations. "The council awaits your demonstration." He nodded, taking a deep breath. Today, he would introduce a device that could expand the human mind's creative and cognitive capabilities without bounds. If successful, his invention would be the key to unlocking realms of thought and imagination previously deemed fantastical. Alara handed him a small, crystalline chip. It sparkled, containing intricate circuits that were almost organic in design. "This is it," she whispered, her eyes reflecting the myriad colors of the chip. Placing it on the central console, Dr. Silas initiated the sequence. The room hummed, alive with anticipation. As the boundaries between reality and imagination began to blur, the city of Elysium stood on the cusp of a new dawn. But every leap forward came with its own set of challenges, and Adrian would soon discover that even a mind as vast as his could be blindsided by the unforeseen. Unbeknownst to him, as the crystalline chip glowed brighter, a shadowy figure watched from the city's edge. The future of Elysium, for better or worse, was about to be irrevocably altered. The shadowy figure, known to a select few as Orion, was an outcast. Once a leading neuroscientist at the same prestigious institution as Dr. Silas, he had been ostracized for his radical theories on the potential dangers of limitless cognition. The council had dismissed him, believing him to be a barrier to Elysium's progress. But he hadn't stopped his research. He merely took it underground, both metaphorically and quite literally, in the labyrinthine catacombs beneath the gleaming city. In the depths below, Orion had amassed a group of like-minded individuals. They called themselves the Preservers. They believed in progress, but not at the unchecked, reckless pace set by the likes of Dr. Silas. "He's activating it," whispered Lila, Orion's second-in-command, as she monitored the energy surges from the city above. Her eyes, devoid of the digital glimmers common in most Elysian citizens, bore into the holographic screens. Orion's lips tightened. "Then we have to be ready. If Silas's experiment spirals out of control, it will be up to us to contain it." Back in his skyscraper lab, Dr. Silas felt a rush of exhilaration as the chip's energy integrated with the central console. Streams of data and images flashed before him, offering glimpses into worlds and dimensions uncharted. His heart raced, not out of fear, but from the sheer magnitude of possibility. Alara, watching the display, felt a twinge of unease. "Adrian," she said cautiously, "the energy readings are higher than any of our tests. Should we reduce the output?" Dr. Silas, entranced, took a moment to respond. "No. Let it reach its potential. We need to see its limits." That was the moment the first scream echoed across Elysium. Residents, previously going about their routines, stopped in their tracks, clutching their heads in agony. The augmented neural pathways that were a common feature of every citizen began to overload, flooding their senses with a chaotic barrage of information. In the underground, alarms blared. Lila looked at Orion, panic evident. "It's happening faster than we predicted." Orion clenched his fists. "Activate the dampeners. We need to shield as many as we can." As the Preservers scrambled to deploy their countermeasures, Alara turned to Dr. Silas, her voice filled with desperation. "Adrian, you need to shut it down." But Dr. Silas, though visibly struggling, was captivated by the onslaught of creativity and knowledge. Every iota of his genius was engaged, trying to harness and comprehend the cascading information. He whispered, almost to himself, "Such beauty. Such chaos." Alara, realizing the enormity of their miscalculation, rushed to the console. But as she reached out, a forceful energy surge sent her flying across the room. The fate of Elysium hung in the balance, with its brightest mind lost in the very brilliance he had unlocked. And in the shadows, those who had been dismissed and overlooked readied themselves to safeguard the city from its own ambition. Alara, dazed from the energy surge, struggled to her feet. The lab was filled with a cacophony of distorted sounds and pulsing lights, emanating from the overloaded central console. Through the turmoil, she could make out Dr. Silas, standing motionless, a silhouette of rapture and torment. Knowing she couldn't shut down the chip alone, her mind raced for alternatives. She remembered an old fail-safe installed in the lab for emergencies, a pulse that could temporarily disable all tech within a certain radius. It was risky, with the potential to exacerbate the situation, but the alternative was watching Elysium collapse into madness. She stumbled to the concealed panel, entering the code from memory. The room was momentarily bathed in an intense, blinding light, and then, silence. The once vibrant display on the central console was dark. Dr. Silas, released from the chip's overwhelming grip, collapsed. Alara rushed to his side, relief flooding her when she found him breathing, albeit weakly. Beneath the city, the preserver's dampeners had begun to take effect. Pockets of Elysium found respite from the neural onslaught, their minds shielded from the chip's influence. But the dampeners were a temporary solution, and their power was waning. "We've bought some time," Orion said, "but it's not enough. We need to neutralize that chip." Lila, her face streaked with sweat, nodded in agreement. "The lab's systems are offline. Now is our chance." Together, they ascended to the city, navigating the chaos of the streets. Elysian citizens wandered aimlessly, their augmented minds trying to make sense of the fractured reality around them. Reaching the lab, Orion and Lila were met with an unexpected sight. Alara, attempting to revive a fallen Dr. Silas. Lila, seeing her former mentor in such a state, felt a pang of sorrow. Their differences aside, the bond they once shared as teacher and student remained. Without wasting time on pleasantries, Orion and Alara quickly briefed each other on their respective situations. Realizing the gravity of their missteps, they combined their expertise in a bid to find a solution. Using the remnants of the preserver's dampening technology and the lab's resources, they fashioned a device capable of neutralizing the chip's effects permanently. However, to deploy it, they needed to access Elysium's central core, a nexus that connected every neural augmentation in the city. The journey to the core was fraught with challenges, from navigating the disoriented masses to bypassing security measures still active despite the chaos. But their combined intelligence and determination proved formidable. Standing before the core, Orion looked at Dr. Silas, who had regained consciousness, though he remained weak. "Are you sure about this?" Orion asked, doubt evident in his voice. Dr. Silas, his face lined with regret, nodded. "We ventured too far, too fast. We need to reset, to find a balance." With that, they activated the device. A harmonious hum resonated throughout Elysium, gradually restoring order. The iridescent sky, which had turned stormy in the turmoil, began to clear, revealing the familiar kaleidoscopic beauty. In the aftermath, Elysium emerged changed. The city's relentless pursuit of boundless knowledge was tempered with newfound respect for the fragility of the mind. Dr. Silas and Orion, once adversaries, now collaborated to guide the city's progress with both ambition and caution. And as Elysium rebuilt, its citizens bore witness to a profound truth: that brilliance, unbridled and unchecked, could lead to chaos. But with understanding and collaboration, even the greatest challenges could be overcome.